All right, guys. So this one is complicated. We've got two pushers, three crowns, three bezels. Yes, three. Two internal and one external bezel. On top of that, the watch houses an upside down value movement. So to say this watch is on the quirky side might be a bit of an understatement. The watch is one of the new Hamilton crosswinds, and although it has one of the coolest complications I've ran into, it might also be the most useless. Big thanks to Gem Bijou for lending in the watch. Gem Bijou is a local authorized dealer here in the Toronto area for Hamilton and many other brands. If you're shopping watches, check them out at gembijou.com. So let's get straight to it and take a look at the watch. Now, I believe there is a total of three new versions of this watch. There's a blue, a green, and this PVD coated version they call the Sandstorm Beige. There is a lot to take in here, but the first thing I thought when I saw it was I really liked the color combination. I always liked the look of the Crosswind or X-Wind models, but this one in particular is very eye-catching. So, the most interesting aspect of the watch is definitely the drift angle calculator, which uses three bezels and a graph to calculate how much to adjust your bearing to account for the crosswind. It takes into consideration your speed and bearing, along with the wind speed and direction to give you the bearing to adjust in degrees during your flight. We've got two internal bezels operated by the crowns on the right side of the watch. The bottom crown will operate the upper internal bezel, and the top crown will operate a bezel that's just below that one. You can see through the small cutout of the upper. Now, unfortunately, there's a graph that comes with the watch. On the older models, it was actually on the case back, but these come with a card with that graph to complete the calculation, and I didn't end up picking it up when I got the watch. Hamilton actually has a short video that shows how it works. It's fairly simple. If you're trying to figure it out, I think the best spot to go would be right there, and I'll link that below. There's actually a really good article on FratelloWatches.com that tackles it as well, so I'll link that too. So not only is this complication completely useless unless you're in the air, but it might not be overly useful in the air either. My brother, who some of you guys will know from past videos, is a pilot. I asked him if this is something he'd ever use, and he quickly responded with three letters: GPS. He said even if GPS went down for some reason, there's some other alternative options that he'd use before using a watch like this. I personally have a hard time even reading it. He did say in flight school they use slide rule calculators for this sort of thing as part of the schooling, but not so much in the real world. Bottom line is it's a really neat complication, great conversation starter, but that's about it, although it does look cool with all the extra bezels and crowns. Now, what is up with that upside down movement? The movement is the caliber H30, which is a Valjoux based movement. It is visible through the display case back. Normally, the dial layout is flipped with the subdials at the 6, 9, and 12, the date at the 3, the day date, and the pushers on the opposite side of the watch. I think since the primary function of the watch is the drift angle calculator, they put those bezel crowns in the most easiest area to access. Because the movement has turned the opposite way, to start the chronograph, you push the bottom button, and we'll get it going there, which is a little counterintuitive at first, and then we will stop and reset with the top pusher. So I wasn't sure how I felt about the camo dial. It looks cool, but I think I'd prefer non-camo. It's already a very busy watch, so Just a straight brown or beige dial would have cleaned it up a bit. One detail I'm glad they did was the color matched date. That looks very good. The loom isn't usually the greatest with Hamilton, but this is actually not bad at all. The markers aren't quite as bright as the hands, but this is better than what you'd usually see from Hamilton. As far as the case goes, the finish work is well done. Lots of brushwork, and there's some polished areas too. I don't think I mentioned, but all the crowns are screw down crowns. They're big, so very easy to use. Speaking of big, this is a large watch. Case width comes in at just under 45 millimeters, although the crowns and pushers add even a larger appearance, I find. Lug to lug is 53.6 millimeters. The lug opening is 22 millimeters, and the thickness is 15.1 millimeters. Water resist is 100 meters, and the crystal is a flat sapphire with an anti-reflective coating. On wrist, you're feeling this thing. There's some weight to it, that is to be sure. The strap will need a little breaking in, but it looks great on the watch. So yeah, it's a quirky one with that unique complication and the inverted dial layout, but that kind of adds to the cool factor for me. Full MSRP on these is $27.95 here in Canadian dollars and $21.45 USD. So again, quite the watch. Fun one to get hands on with for a few days. Thanks again to Gem Bijou for lending it in. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.